welcome to the 4C conference. Our next presentation is about the value of benchmarking and Energy Star certification in refining, with insights from Solomon, EPA, and Marathon Petroleum. Our speakers are Denny, Macri, Allan, Buikema, and Jason Akey. Jason Akey is of Marathon, Allan Buikema is Solomon, and Denny Macri is the US EPA. Without further ado, gentlemen.
Okay. Cool. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming to our presentation. Again, my name is Allan Buikema. I'm from Solomon. I'm a sustainability engineer at Solomon in our Sustainability and Strategic Insights group. I am the project manager for Energy Star certification for petroleum refineries. So just a quick show of hands, how many of you are from a petroleum site, a refining site? Okay, we got a couple. Yeah, so for those sites that want to be Energy Star certified, I assist the EPA in determining which sites certify for the program based on their energy efficiency. We're joined here today with, again, Jason Akey from Marathon and Denny Macri from the EPA. Next slide, please.
This one. All right, thank you.
Yeah, just little bios. Yeah, so these are just our quick little bios, again, who's speaking. So I'll first hand it over to Danny to talk about the Energy Star program. Next slide.
All right. Thank you, Allan. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you again, Allan, for this opportunity, and thank you for the 4C conference organizers. I'm very excited to speak to this group today. I work closely with both Allan and JC on Energy Star, and also work with a broader group of manufacturers on saving money through energy efficiency. So Marathon is going to talk about how they've used Energy Star to continuously improve. If you are a manufacturer in the room, whether you're a petroleum refinery or a refinery in other part of the chemical industry, you could also use Energy Star to reduce costs and emissions. If you're a service provider, you could also partner with Energy Star to provide additional value to your customers. Next slide. Okay, so I am at the US EPA, and EPA's mission is to protect human health and the environment. We do that through regulations and grants, but we also achieve our mission through partnerships with industry and the public. I'm with the Energy Star program. It's a voluntary program established in 1992. And unfortunately, I'm not in the room, but I'm going to ask Jason and Allan for some help. Raise your hand if you've heard of Energy Star before. Why don't you guys tell me what you see?
Most of the people in the room raise their hand.
Okay, good. So I have an easy job right now. All right, so this blue label that you see at the bottom of the screen, it has become the national symbol of efficiency. Somebody says Energy Star, they see the label, they understand what it means. We certify appliances and other consumer goods, but we also work with manufacturers on how they save money in their operations. And to the right is the Energy Star model. When companies follow it, they could expect deep and lasting reductions. If you partner with Energy Star, you'll be given a coach at no cost on how to implement this framework. I'm sorry, can folks still hear me?
Yes, very clearly.
Okay. And these coaches come from industry where they've helped their companies save millions. So if you are interested in partnering with Energy Star, that's one of the benefits, and we will provide you resources along the way. Next slide. All right, so at EPA, we've studied how industry can decarbonize and save money. Energy efficiency, in our estimation, is one of the largest benefits to industry in reducing emissions and saving money. And we know this because we've worked with the petroleum industry and others. And the other thing about efficiency is that it is an important source for reducing emissions, specifically carbon dioxide. Refining is one of the highest emitting industries. This is documented and well known. So you want to demonstrate to your shareholders and to the public that you are proactively managing emissions. And starting with energy efficiency gives you quick returns and it saves you money. So there's no reason why anyone would want to do this. Next slide. One of the first things we recommend our partners do to measure energy, track energy, and to benchmark your performance. I worked with companies that think they're the leaders in energy efficiency and they're doing everything they can, but turns out they're not. And they don't know that because they're not benchmarking. So you need to measure your energy and track it to understand where you compare to your peers. And we have ways for you to do that where you're not disclosing any CBI. Next slide. So when you benchmark, you may determine that you may find out that you're in the lowest quartile, that you're not a top performer. But that means that you have the most to gain. It means that you have a lot of cost savings that you're leaving on the table. And if you are a top performer, it means that you have something to share, especially if you have poor performing plants in your portfolio. They could learn from your top ones, but you're not going to know that unless you benchmark. Next slide. Now, the companies that we've noticed have excelled the most are the ones that recognize good performance from their teams. And the reason they do this is because energy management is about people. So they recognize their teams. Energy management is behavior-based. You can install as many technologies as you want, write up as many SOPs, but if people aren't following those policies, if they're not operating the equipment correctly, you're not achieving all that you can. People are the ones, they're saving the money, they're reducing the plant's impact, so they're the ones who should be recognized if you want to see continuous improvement. Next slide. Basically sums it up. Don't underestimate the value of recognition. It's simple, but it's powerful. It helps you have continuous improvement. If you go to the next slide, you're going to see a photo taken from Titan America's cement plant in Roanoke, Virginia. And this plant has been certified for over 17 consecutive years with Energy Star. You could see how proud these people are, and they're motivated to keep on getting that certification every year. Next slide. Now, how do you motivate plants? How do you motivate people? There are a lot of things that you can do internally, but one of the tools that you can use is Energy Star certification. So we certify plants that we certify the plants that are the most energy efficient in the nation. Just like you see the label on appliance, which means that it is one of the most energy efficient appliances. A certification on a refinery means that it's one of the most energy efficient. It is using the less energy per barrel of oil refined. And when you certify with Energy Star, if you go to the next slide. So when you certify to Energy Star, it motivates staff, but it also validates to your management that you are performing. You're able to tell your management, hey, we are a leading refinery in the nation. And when you tell them that, they're going to want to make sure that you continue to maintain that level of performance. Or even if you're not there yet, if you're on the cusp of it, maybe they'll give you some more resources to support it. If you go to the next slide, when we talk about how Energy Star helps demonstrate your commitment, Energy Star, as you know, it's one of the most widely recognized eco labels. It has over 90% of the public trust and public recognition. So when you are trying to talk about what you are doing to help the environment, you can point to the fact that you are an Energy Star certified plant or you are an Energy Star partner, which demonstrates that you do take energy management seriously. Next slide. Now, how do you apply for certification? So if you are a petroleum refinery in the room, You can apply for certification. The first step is you need to figure out if you're in the top quartile of performance. Allan's going to talk about that. Because Energy Star is being issued by the EPA, we want to make sure that the plant meets a certain level of environmental performance. So you email me, I'll do a compliance screen, just let you know if you pass or if you don't pass. Assuming everything is okay, you're going to have a professional engineer validate the data that you provided to Solomon. This is just a third-party validation because EPA, we don't want to see the data, but we need a third party to verify that it's correct. You then submit an application, and if everything looks good, we'll then certify the plant. Next slide. If you are a certified plant, we will send a congratulatory email to the energy manager and to the CEO or a senior executive of your choice. Now, it's not very often that companies are going to get a letter from the EPA to congratulate them. This is a case where EPA will send a letter to a senior executive doing that. So you have a chance to get that letter. The refinery will also receive a certificate along with the Energy Star decal, which you can put on your refinery, and then you'll be mentioned in a press release. You go to the next slide, you will see that we issued over 100 Energy Star certifications to refineries. 24 refineries have received Energy Star certification at one point. And the reason why the 110 is higher is because if you want to keep your certification, you need to apply every year. We know that energy performance can decrease over time. So if you want to keep the certification, you just need to apply again. I know that there are a little over 100 refineries. I think it's between 100 and 150 in the US. It means that we've gotten a lot of them to certify, but there are others who are out there who haven't taken advantage of this. So that could be you, and I would suggest to talk with Allan afterwards to see if you're in that quartile. Next slide. We don't just certify refineries, we offer certification to other manufacturing sectors, from motor vehicle sectors to food, to pharmaceutical, to metals, to metal casting. And we currently have 21 sectors where we provide plant certification, and we're continuing to add more every year. So if you are part of a chemical industry, you're not on here, you could get in touch with us and we could talk about whether it makes sense, whether we can certify that industry. It requires a big upfront commitment from the industry. But if you aren't eligible for certification, your plants could be eligible for other kinds of EPA recognition. So if you go to the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. One more. If you're not eligible for certification, or even maybe you are, if your manufacturing plant, if your refinery, if your terminal, if it can reduce its energy intensity by 10% in 5 years or less, EPA will provide recognition through the Energy Star Challenge for industry. So all that you need to do is you need to get 12 months worth of energy and production data and determine a metric. This will likely be total energy divided by total production. That's your baseline. Take 10% of that. That's your target. When you're able to reduce that, you have a PE validate that, send the application to EPA, we'll review it, and if you did in fact meet that reduction, you could get recognition for it. You go to the next slide, it'll show you what you get. Again, we'll send a letter to your CEO. You will get a certificate and you'll go on the Energy Star website. And one of so we want to recognize sites that are meeting energy milestones, but we are also doing this because it's really a tool to help you save energy. Going back to what I said earlier, one of the key things for energy management is to track your energy use to set goals. When you're participating in the challenge, you're doing that, you're tracking your energy, so you get in the habit of doing that over time. And then if you are able to achieve the challenge, you're able to use that to help motivate staff. And if you go to the last slide, just to summarize, energy management is critical for reducing your emissions, and partnering with Energy Star, using Energy Star certification can help motivate your staff and help you communicate to the public what you're doing around sustainability. I'll be on the line, so I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end of the other presentations.
Great, thank you, Danny. So my section, we'll do a little reiteration and a little bit more about what I do and to certify a site for Energy Star. Just quick warrior statement. Just remember all the insights and slides I'll be sharing. They are proprietary to Solomon. Warriors love this one. Quick little agenda. I'll go over who Solomon is for those of you that don't know who we are or what we do. What is EII? What is the Energy Intensity Index, and why does the EPA use that for their Energy Star refinery certifications? We'll reiterate again on why you should be benchmarking your energy. I'll provide some insights on how the world's best performs and the relationship between energy efficiency and carbon emissions. And then I'll go over the certification process again. So for those of you that don't know who Solomon is, we've been around for about 40 years. We're most famously known for our refinery fuels study that happens biannually. The key message on this slide, here are some of our major milestones in relationships to sustainability over the years. But the key one that's in bold and red is that the EPA has actually adopted our EII, or Energy Intensity Index, and they've been using it for certifying refineries since 2007. So we've been doing this for quite a while now. So let's jump into what is EII. Quick show of hands. Is anyone familiar with EII, or is this completely never heard of it? Okay. So EII is a industry accepted standard that is used by companies and government entities all around the world. It is an energy metric where we take your actual energy consumption and we develop an energy standard that's derived from over 300 refineries from around the world. The standard energy consumption is what we believe you should be operating at for your energy intensity. This is based on your configuration, your size, and many other factors. There are no units for EII. It's then multiplied by 100. It's more kind of a scale. So your 100 is going to be kind of your standard line. If you're less than 100, you're probably doing a good job. If you're over 100, we may want to look at that and we may want to drop that. How is this related to Energy Star certification? Well, the EPA, when they look at other manufacturing sites, they require you to benchmark your energy and they give you a similar score. But since we have been doing this for 40 years, they approached Solomon and said, you've been doing it, you're way more in depth. And this is a very similar way that they look at energy efficiency for these other sites. So they rely on this to determine who qualifies for the program. I'm going to reiterate again on the value of benchmarking your energy. First and foremost, you're going to save money by reducing your utility costs and optimizing your energy consumption, which can then lead to better insurance rates. And what a better way to get a better insurance rate than having a government stamped approved, yes, this is an energy efficient site. They know what they're doing. Again, it does lead to a reduction in your carbon footprint. We have seen a direct correlation between our EII and what we call our CEI, which is a carbon emission index. It's directly correlated to better energy efficiency. You'll have lower carbon emissions. And I'll share those insights here in a second. And the overall effective operational energy management positively impacts your bottom line while reducing emissions at the same time. So this is a little outdated slide, but this is from our 2020 field study, World's Best webinar, where we look at the best refineries in the world and how do they compare against the other refineries. And this is a correlation between the EII and your CEI, where having a lower EII means you're more efficient. And you'll see the world's best, labeled WB, is sitting over there in the first quartile, and I guess the rest of the world is sitting over in third quartile on energy efficiency. And as you drop your energy efficiency or your energy intensity, you'll see a drop in your CEI or carbon emission index as well. This just kind of backs that up as well. Here's a little worm chart on improving your energy efficiency. This was a case study on, I think, a few sites versus the world's best and known as WB. And let me check my notes on that. Yeah, so these are refineries that participated in our study for over 14 years. And you'll see as they reduce their energy intensity, they move more to the left. And that means they have higher process unit utilization outside of your planned shutdowns. So not just reducing your carbon emissions, but you're going to have higher process unit utilization as well by being more energy efficient. Okay, so how does that all tie into certification? And what do I do? Like Denny said, so you have to be, in order to be considered for Energy Star, your site has to be within the top 25% of energy efficiency for your respective size. So I look at it based on your total crude capacity. And then based on all the sites that participate in our study, I will develop a curve. And I can then determine based on your respective size whether or not you fall in the top 25% based on your energy efficiency. Again, Denny touched on this. This is more what he does. He checks if you have any violations against the Clean Air Act. He does a full environmental screen to make sure that you have no consent decrees, violations, any major legal problems happening. You have to engage a professional engineer for your data submission to me. And basically that's, again, that third party check to make sure that the information is accurate, correct, and it was all submitted correctly, I guess. I do want to, it's not on the slide, but I do want to denote that there is two different methods. Like I mentioned, the field study is, it's every other year, but this program is it's an annual program. So yeah, if you want it submitted, if you want to be Energy Star certified, you have to apply every year. So the method is a little bit different every year. So for instance, this year, if you want to be Energy Star certified, you need to submit your 2023 operating data in a pro forma energy fashion where we'll do those calculations, calculate your energy intensity, and then I'll compare that against the typical fuel study curve. If it's a study year, we just use your study data. And that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, and if you want to know if your site's Energy Star compliant, then just reach out to me. Happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Bear with me a second. Thanks. All right, I'm going to try to come at this from an operator's perspective and try to tie some of these energy efficiency themes towards emissions, because most of the attendees here, I assume, more of an environmental health safety background. So, and I'll start with kind of an observation. I'm on the technical side, or your process engineering department, and the tendency, at least in my organization, has been that it's that department that works with operations to drive the energy efficiency aspect of things, which I'm going to try to show you is also the emissions reduction end of things. And in the environmental world, my perception has been that it's more of a documentation and verification of compliance effort. So what part of my message is going to be is I hope you're able to go back to your shop and try to get collaboration between your environmental department, your technical department, and your operations teams to work on energy efficiency, because you're recognizing the value of the emissions reduction and improvements. Hopefully that makes sense. So, and I'll guess I'll try to give you a practical example before I get to that. Anybody at a site where you're coming up against NOx constraints on a particular heater or maybe a NOx cap at your site? What I see is when you think about reducing your fuel consumption, that is energy efficiency. And reducing fuel consumption, one of the easiest places to do it in a petroleum or hydrocarbon facility is probably around steam consumption and steam users. So when you think about what your incremental steam producer is, at least at a lot of our plants, it is a 1950s vintage boiler that is a NOx hog, that if you can work on reducing steam demand, you're going to focus on reducing NOx production. So that, trying to tie together the themes here so you understand the why. Going back to Marathon, this is just our network. You can see you've probably met a lot of MPLX gathering and processing people here this week. We take natural gas out of the ground and distribute it. We've got midstream assets, and then the downstream assets, we've got 13 petroleum refineries and 2 renewable diesel facilities. And of these 13 petroleum refineries, you can see here there's a number that have been certified Energy Star. And in fact, we've got 2 that have been certified every single year since Denny's Energy Star program has allowed petroleum refineries to participate. Last year we certified 5, and this year I'm working towards certifying 6 if all goes well. So that's almost half of our fleet being in the top 25%. So think about that. If you've got half of your facilities in the top 25%, that's pretty good. I think all but one of ours is in the top 50%. A lot of that is because of having 15 years of an energy program enabled by Energy Star's framework and supported with the certification by Solomon. So another why, when you think about the business case around profitability, Marathon consumes, in refining, we consume around a million BTUs a day, 1 trillion BTUs a day. So if you call that $3 an MMBTU, that's $3 million a day of fuel consumption. So there's a business case to be had here. Over the past 15 years, we've been able to save around 2 billion BTUs an hour, or 50 billion a day, through energy efficiency. That's projects that we install that are more energy efficient, and also some KPI programs. Where we see that is, and try to lump this together, this is our energy efficiency over time. So lower is better, more efficient. When we were a 6 refinery entity, we were able to take our energy intensity down 7% over the course of about 6 or 7 years. We then added 1 large refinery, and that refinery was less efficient. So it brought our bulk intensity up, made it poorer. But then, of course, over the next 6 years, we deployed that energy program at that large site. We continue improvements. All this time, we're saving money, right? Because we're spending less on utilities. I told you $3 million a day. You start saving 1 or 2% on that. Well, now you're accruing money and funds that you can look to. What are we going to do? Let's M&A. Let's look at acquiring a company. Marathon acquired Endeavor, and that was 10 refineries at the time. Consolidated, got it down to 7 with COVID and some demand destruction. When you look at our new 13 refinery entity, again, our EII, our energy intensity degraded a little bit by combining forces, but we've continued that journey of driving it down, the EII. Our Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions intensity has gone down 27% in the past 10 years. We've got a goal of cutting 30% of Scope 1, Scope 2 emissions by 2030. So we're most of the way there, and energy efficiency has been a big chunk of it. We've also been able to reduce our raw water intake by 17% since 2016. We have a goal of 20% reduction. And again, just like emissions is lower with better energy efficiency, water demand is lower with better energy efficiency. You reduce the steam demand, you don't have to fire a boiler to make steam, you don't need to bring in raw water to make the steam. Okay, so some of the soft benefits of certification. We've got a big source of employee pride. This is, it's an older photo, but it's from our Canton, Ohio facility. And when you enter that building, this site now has 17 plaques on the wall that shows Energy Star certified in each of their certification years. So it shows anybody coming in that building, including new employees, that, hey, this site's really serious about their energy efficiency and has a good relationship with the EPA. We've got some industry recognition. This will be our 5th year of achieving the highest level of Energy Star's Partner of the Year status, which is Sustained Excellence. And then, ESG ratings is also important in the shareholder world. And the fact that we have programs that have been in place, the fact that we are making good progress on our Scope 1, Scope 2 reductions and our water intensity has allowed us to increase our ESG rating over time. And as of 22, at least, we were the highest ESG rating of downstream petroleum operators in the US. We do some things to what I call bang the drum or communicate our energy efficiency progress. This is an example of a poster that our Detroit refinery put up. They customized this poster for every operating area to show, hey, you achieved Energy Star last year, great job. Here's what your department did, and here's the impact you had. It's an attempt to build up the culture and get folks supportive so that going forward, they're making good choices, good behaviors in the field to conserve resources. Tied with that, and specifically at the Detroit refinery, we held what's called an industrial showcase. It's basically where you invite the public, elected officials, community stakeholders to come in. You tell them a little bit about your programs and what you do at the site, give them a tour, give them a chance to engage with the folks and see how you really run your shop. And for our Detroit refinery, that's really important because they're in an environmental justice area and strengthening relations with their communities, very important. We've got a monthly newsletter that goes out, and then if you're in the plant, you know that everybody loves hard hat stickers. Communicating externally, this is an excerpt from our annual sustainability report. Tied to that, we have an annual report, and our opening message by our CEO highlighted the Energy Star program. So to me, that also speaks volumes when page 2 of your annual report is communicating your good relationship with EPA and specifically the Energy Star program, and that you're saving BTUs and reducing emissions. Okay, last thing, talk about benchmarking and then a case study, and I want to leave time for Q&A here. So this is an example output from Solomon's fuel study benchmarking results, and this is for our Detroit refinery. What it's showing is, hey, of the world's best energy intensity, the lowest energy intensity is here. Detroit refinery's energy intensity is up here. Well, why is that? They are able to break down, call it the buckets of energy, to tell you where you need to work on things. And you can see for Detroit, they needed to work on steam, and they needed to work on something called shaft energy, basically how you utilize horsepower. This information has allowed us to do some detailed studies. We did an energy deep dive with Solomon where they provided us even more detailed information, unit by unit, of how they perform relative to all other peers in the study. And then we've also been leading these, call them a think big energy brainstorming exercise where we've got goals of reducing our energy intensity by a large percentage, like up to 10%. What would we need to do? What would be the benefits of that? And those benefits, we make sure we include things like emissions reduction, whether it's CO2 equivalent, NOx, SOx, whatever. There might be some monetary value to that. It's also allowed us to build what we call energy roadmaps. So let's say we have a site that's in the second quartile for performance, and they're trying to achieve Energy Star, which means first quartile. These roadmaps allow us to, I call it the shopping cart of projects that we want to do to improve energy efficiency to ultimately get to first quartile energy performance. So that Detroit case study, they had not been certified as Energy Star since 2012. we got this great energy benchmarking data from the 2018 study, and that deep dive I was telling you about highlighted that steam was a key gap. It allowed that site to put a new focus on steam, and a group of people got together and came up with this list of corrective actions. Ultimately, it left them where, hey, we got 2 boilers, and one of them, they actually idle it now in the summer, and the second one just sits there hovering near minimum. So talking to that NOx example, they've also brought down their emissions from those sources down to about as low as they can. That allowed them to take their energy intensity from second quartile performance, ultimately in 2021 below the certification threshold to achieve Energy Star. These are photos from that industrial showcase event where you can see that, we get some of the key folks together who helped save that energy and drive that. They give presentations and poster board sessions on what they did in a particular area to improve efficiency. We've got keynote speakers like myself talking to the group. And this is a group reflecting the elected officials, community stakeholders in Detroit, and the leadership team at our refinery. Just a great opportunity, and it ties all back together to Energy Star's program. And we're trying to highlight the results of our emissions reduction and energy conservation through the program. Thanks for your time. That was a lot of info on my part. We've got 6 minutes, I think. 3, 4, 5.
Are there any questions from the audience? Are there any questions from the audience?
Congrats.
We see the environmental costs and the energy. So we talk to different people. So why this program, why Energy Star is important for the environmental people once we're here in the environmental community? Why does Energy Star important? Why?
Yeah, well, as an operator, I'd say that Energy Star is important to help join those groups. One, it gives you a common platform that you're trying to achieve a goal on, because energy efficiency and environmental compliance or improvement, to me, from a thermal fuel standpoint, are one and the same. The other thing I think it does is drives a positive culture within the site. I would say Marathon's hiring practices, if I look at the last few years, when you're looking to recruit a new engineer out of school, there's a smaller pool of people interested in coming into the hydrocarbon processing and petroleum refining world. ESG, climate change, no matter where you sit or where you feel on that topic, it's put less people into the hiring pool. But if you can go to your recruiting engagement and show that you have a sustainability program, here's what we do, here are the results of that, it gives those folks a purpose to be involved in your organization. And we've really found that the new folks that we've brought in, they really are interested in this area. And in fact, 10 years ago, people wouldn't have wanted to be in my network of energy efficiency engineers. And now I get a lot of young people that are very interested and want to know how they can participate. So drives culture and drives collaboration between the departments.
Which access to EII? So can you also, or EPA can also award to certify the petrochemical side?
Yeah, I don't know if Danny's still on. Hey, Danny, just so you're aware, there's at least one participant in this room who is from hydrocarbon processing olefins area. So I might have plugged in that it wouldn't be bad to continue to work with Energy Star on developing a new program for olefins so that they can be certified as well. have
Yeah,
thoughts?
certainly. And I'm sorry, it's a little hard to hear the questions, but thank you for summarizing, Jason. I mentioned we currently certify 20 types of manufacturing plants, and we do want to add new sectors. Whenever we start certifying a new sector, we need to develop a benchmarking model. This may be something that Solomon has, but we also need support from the wider industry that this is something that they want to do. So if you are interested in this, I would certainly encourage you to get in touch with us. You can find Jason or Allan afterwards, and they can pass along my email.
Jason, I have a question. I noticed that when Marathon acquired a refinery, and then you go down a path of increasing their energy efficiency rather quickly over a few years. If you were to acquire another refinery, what are are there specific examples that you to achieve that increased energy efficiency? My guess may be many projects. What projects are most impactful?
Well, we look at them starting from a lower no cost to capital investment standpoint. And the low cost, no cost is simply implementing an energy key performance indicator program and setting aggressive targets and expecting operations and technical teams to hit them. We feel like when we implement a new KPI program, we see 4 to 5% efficiency improvement as the opportunity, and our ability to capture that's around 30%. So I see about 1.5 to 2% energy efficiency improvement just from a low cost, no cost. After that, it's things like rationalizing equipment and units that are poor performers, or investing in things like electrification of steam condensing turbines, much more capital intensive, but do have a significant impact on the overall efficiency of the plant.
What gets measured gets done, and if you get a KPIs, it gets done.
We have a 6-strategy program, and strategy number 1 is, do you control what you measure and analyze? So you're exactly right.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Jason.
everybody.
Thank you, Allan.
Thank you.
And Marcy.